today we're about to have like a system design session. Jerry will be interviewing Ephraim. After the session, Ephraim would pick the next person to interview, and then we'll talk about other things for the week. So yeah, you guys, over to you, Jerry.
Okay, Ephraim, could you share your screen and maybe share like I don't know which um board you would want to use. Most of us use Excalibur, so
Yeah,
maybe you can share like a link to
I'm
the board.
also familiar with that, so you should share the link. Yeah. But first of all, can you see my screen?
In case you are talking, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. So could you share like Excalibur or something?
I thought you
So
were
we
going to
start.
share. Sorry.
No. So you can just create and then
Uh, yeah. Who
I
did
mean
this?
if hmm.
Let me just make sure it's a clean listing. Yeah, it's a clean listing. Yeah. So,
All right.
uh,
So your question is
uh, I'll send the link.
all right. Thank you. You started the recording, right?
Yeah, I'm recording.
All right. So your question is to design a coding platform. So like lead code, HackerRank. Yeah. So mainly lead code. And yeah. So
Just
we
that.
can yeah. So I can give you some functional requirements,
Yeah. So,
or would you
kindly
want
let
to
me
come up with
know.
that yourself?
Kindly let me
Okay.
know the functional and non-functional requirement. Yeah.
All right. So first one for the functional. Have we started the time up now?
Yeah, I have.
All right. Sure. So the first one is users users should be able to view a list of coding problems.
Okay. Users should be able to view this. Yeah.
Given a problem, they should be able to submit their solution and get results.
Yeah.
And also um for like sometimes when there are competitions, we want to be able to see a live leaderboard. So users should be able to view live leaderboards.
Okay.
Then for the non-functional, um, we want isolation and security to be one of our top targets. The system should be able to give us results in 5 to 10 seconds. And you should for skill competitions can have about 100 about 500,000 users, concurrent users, so you should be able to support that. And yeah,
So let's say on the average, how many users are visiting the platform? Not just for competitions, like how many users are visiting the platform?
mm, let's say it would be a small numbers like 5,000, 5,000 like
Five
daily active
thousand.
users. Yeah,
Um, so I think that then competitions are going to be some form of anomaly load because if the average visit is 5,000 and we have like scale to be 500,000 concurrent users for competition.
yeah.
Okay, so um, 5,000 daily active users. Yeah, I think I get you. So if I should rephrase your problem, what you're trying to say, we've got a coding platform just like Leaked Code and HackerRank.
And can you zoom in a bit, like just a little?
Okay. Um, is this okay?
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Um,
Hack, is it fine?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
yeah, so if
Right.
I should get what you're saying, we are designing a coding platform that works like Lead Code
Yeah.
and HackerRank. And first of all, like users should personally be able to submit their like personal solutions. So like we have like one solution to each user, and then there should be some form of live leaderboard, as in like maybe there would be competitions. So for the live
Yes.
leaderboard, like is it um is it going to have like be live just during the competition time, or it's kind of like live as in like per question, or it's just for the competitions?
No, just for the competitions.
Okay, so just for the competitions. Um,
Yeah.
so during competitions, we should have a live leaderboard,
Yes.
and we
Let,
have
let's make it simple.
we have a 5,000 daily active users, and
Yep.
for the non-functional requirements, we want some form of security and low latency and skill. I think during like hard times you have about 500,000 concurrent users. So yeah, I think I'll start with first listing out the endpoints and the entities in this system that we have. So I think first personally I couldn't see something like submit. So we have something like a post for maybe question ID slash submit, and we have something like a get for a live leaderboard. Um, oh, and so if you say users should be able to see their results, are the results going to be stored, or they are just like going to see them, and if they leave the page, that's all?
No, they would have to be stored. So when you solve a question and you come back, maybe once you review, you should be able to see your results from like
Okay,
past submission.
okay. So something like maybe you want to see your solution, as in like and your results as well. So we have something like question ID um, slash solution slash me being the user themselves. Yeah. I think for now this is the things that we are going to go with. And I think you mentioned we are going to have users, we are going to have questions, we are going to have comps, um, and also we are going to have a leaderboard. So yeah, these are the I think for now these are the things I'll be dealing with now. So how do I even move? Okay, yeah, I think I can scroll now. Oh, I think first I'm going to draw this oval or Eclipse or whatever to depict users or clients. And I have this my rectangle where it's going to be an API gateway. So this is going to do a whole lot, such as authentication, domain, DNS activities, and also authentication and authorization. So this is what is going to handle it. So we have our API gateway. And then we have a service, which is kind of like the question service. And then we have, I think I can duplicate it. No. Yeah. And we have another service, which is going to be like user service. And I would like to go with a SQL kind of database. So because I want my data to be structured, both for questions and users as well. And also, I think we can have a competition service. Yeah, just because sometimes the load becomes heavy. So comps. Yeah. So this is what we have, and we have like our API gateway distributes to any of them. Oh, and also one thing I forgot. Let me just put them in brackets. I think my API gateway also serves as a load balancer. So or DNS, yeah, etc. Yeah. So I have this API gateway, and what's happening? Mhm. Yeah, and I think every single one of them also has like some kind of DB type to them. So what's object type means to start with DB. Yeah. So we've got this. um, oh, sorry, these arrows are taking my time. So oh, yeah, so questions DB. So in the questions DB, I think we already stated some of the stuff. So we are going to have something like ID. We are going to have something like number of times it has been attempted, like that particular question. So out of the number of times it has been attempted, we can like derive the number of people, like the number of submissions. Like, okay, so we have the submissions, then we have like so wrong subs and maybe correct subs. I think there's a whole lot we can also add to them. I wouldn't really think much about it. Maybe we'll just come back to them later. And for the competition, so comp. So this is going to be another SQL database. So I think we also have like ID, name, time, like number of participants. Yeah, I think we would also not really. And then I think for the users DB, I'll have the same thing, ID, name, maybe last submission or something, and number of attempted, maybe number of solved. And yeah, so I think yeah, it's all piecing up together. So so I think on the high level, this is what we have. So I think we are left with one more service, which is kind of like the leaderboard service. So and the leaderboard isn't going to be something like a DB, but rather we we take data from the competition and we use something like a stream. So um, I would I would go for a stream that logs. I wouldn't go for a stream that just like fans out data because I want to maintain the order in such a sense that I would be sending it data such as like the question that has been submitted from the competition, the time it was submitted, and maybe like the number of milliseconds it took for the worst test case to run. So I would have something like a stream. So what did they even call them? A message queue. Um, yeah, that logs. So that message queue that logs sends data such as time, question, number of solved. Oh no, no number of solved. I think like maybe the time and the question might be okay, and maybe this service uses something like maybe we could have an algorithm because I know that for leaderboard it has certain things that it prioritizes. So leaderboard prioritizes it's bird there. Leaderboard prioritizes maybe number of solved over time using solved. So what I'm trying to say is if someone it took them, let's see, 10 seconds to solve a question, but they've just solved one question, and someone has used like 2 hours to solve two questions. The person who used 2 hours to solve two questions should be ahead of the person who just solved one question with, oh, this mouse. So we have this, and also I just want to make it clear how the service is going to work because I feel like it looks like an empty box. And also I think what else do we have? I'm just trying to state certain rules for leaderboards. Okay, you also like so let's see, one way we could break ties is so breaking ties. So if maybe two people have solved the same number of questions, we could check the number of times they submitted an individual question. And then we could also check how fast they solved it. So yeah, how fast they solved it. In order. I think having a service like this, we wouldn't need too much. We wouldn't need like to do too much of optimization just based off the number of concurrent users. The only thing maybe we might sorry. Oh, where is this thing going? Oh guys, sorry, my mouse. Let me zoom out. Zoom out a bit. Yeah, okay. So I think the only thing that we might want to do to optimize a service like this is to maybe make I'll just try and duplicate them. So yeah. Just we're trying to duplicate them. I'm trying to see maybe we are doing some form of replication. Because we have a load balancer, we are looking for a way to spread the load evenly. Um, or in other words, we have multiple instances of the same services. Yeah. If maybe we are to deploy maybe 4 or 5 instances of the same services, maybe using any platform of our choice. Also for the databases, it's the same thing we are doing. We are using like a replication technique where we are we are going to have something like what do you call it, master slave, where you write to just the master, and um, normally the reads happen on the slaves, and maybe we take some time to update a particular time frame to update the slave DBs. I think for the maybe we do that for both competition and DB. I think for users, maybe what's going to happen the most is trying to like maybe kind of user verification, trying to see if like a particular user exists in your database or something. So I think for that one, the kind of replication, not replication, yeah, the kind of replication we could do is maybe we do something like we hash by name, just maybe we could take usernames from A to B, we store them in one database, C to whatever. We just like break them into chunks. And maybe when someone searches for Ajwa, we try and hash Ajwa and we match it to the database that it belongs to. Because at the end of the day, we are not returning any property. And also, I want to add one more thing to this, kind of like submission. Um, I know if you spell I can't spell submission. Submission. Yeah, I think this is the correct way. Yeah, so submission is going to be stored as a JSON. The reason why I'm not trying to, so yeah, it's going to be a document, but it doesn't really matter. We can store it as a string of a markdown, because like markdown also like accepts like programming languages. We can store it as like a raw JSON. We can store it as a raw string, then we pass it through a parser and like maybe a syntax tree to see if it's correct. And I think one thing that I want to add over here is the submission service. So within the submission service, everything. Oh, I should have grouped them. Oh no. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about grouping really for now. But yeah, everything happens in the submission service. But I would love to have a queue over here, just because submissions are submissions multiple concurrent users are making submissions. So I would like to not really order them, but like have them in the queue before they go into the DB, something like a message queue. So I would say message queue, no login. So the difference between login and no login when it comes to like message queues is sometimes you want to, even if the data has been able to pass through the queue, you want to see a history, like in other words, some form of history to know like which kind of data came in first and left first. Sorry, and left like maybe last, like which kind of data. And also you want to maintain the order in which they are happening. That works, like that's the kind of requirements we require for the competition, because that one is kind of like we are trying to rank users based on how quick they solve the question or the number of times they solved it. And we have 500,000 like concurrent users. So I think if we are to break it down, that might be let's see 100 to 200 submissions per. Sorry, 500 approximately 500 seconds. Sorry, approximately 300 submissions per second. Yeah. So that's one thing. And also for the message queue, I don't think we really need to log much, because as long as like the service is able to send it, and maybe the service is able to verify that it's correct, I think you can send it to the DB, yeah, as you like. And before that, I would like to highlight one component that's that's going to be in the question solving platform. So I'm going to use I could do something like an API. So I think I would prefer broken lines. How do we do that broken lines? Yeah. Um, yeah. So for broken lines means any other service that doesn't belong to our architecture. So this could be yeah, code verification um, API. So this is like kind of like we use something like a coding editor, and the coding code editor. Yeah. So the coding editor like is going to provide a number of languages, and it's going to check syntax, and it's going to take care of formatting, and it's going to maybe have a log of the stack, maybe undo, redo, like those kind of stuff. So we would have something like maybe a VS Code, like or any open source like coding editor API, where we could integrate it into our app, but we are not trying to build one from scratch. So what is going to happen is if users submit, it comes into I think this one could be dark line. So so yeah, this could be a submitted code or just code. The code comes into our question service, and the question service runs it against questions service runs against test cases. So yeah, it runs against some test cases, and if it's correct or wrong, we send it through the queue, and the queue stores it in the DB that we've replicated. So that's for normal questions. For competitions, we have something like a message queue that keeps log of stuff, where we try and log the time and question, and yeah, maybe any other data. The leaderboard is kind of like um, another service, which maybe it's going to be uploading every it's going to be uploading every second. I don't know how live it's going to be, because I don't think this is going to be. We don't necessarily have to stream the leaderboard. Maybe users can refresh. I think most coding platforms, users just refresh. We wouldn't necessarily need a webhook for this thing. It could be a simple get request. And yeah, for the user service, I think that's it. Like we do stuff normally. I don't think we need any form of caching over here. I think this is my final presentation. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, could you go back to the function and non-function requirements? I want to see something. So I think one of our top priorities is isolation and security. Could you explain how you take care of that? Yeah.
Mm. So first of all, let's start. If you say isolation, what are we isolating?
So when a user submits their code,
Yeah.
we don't want everyone's code running on the same server, and we want to be able to run that code in some isolated environment. Do you understand? So
Yeah. I get you. I get you. I think yeah. So
okay.
that's going to for isolation, that's going to be in the question service. So I wouldn't say we are using one machine to per code. That would be like very very inefficient. But we could, in the question service, we could have something like I don't want to mention name of tools, but we could have something like an OS spinning up, like OS running, like a software OS, where it could be running, say, 10,000 submissions per second. So in isolation. So let's say we have this kind of stuff where maybe we could get a Linux machine, but this Linux machine is kind of like running like code for maybe 5,000 users per second, and running them against like test cases like per second. So it's already isolated with how users are submitting their code, and also ensuring that people are not going to see other people's code. I think that one, and also the security, it all comes down to authentication and authorization. I don't really think I should delve I should like have a deep dive into authentication and authorization. But since you just raised it up, I'm thinking maybe um, we could any form of authentication we choose, maybe with like JWTs or maybe single sign-ons or whatever. We can have something like a zero trust system where authentication is done at every level. So even if like you could see someone's solution, but even if you click it, you wouldn't be able to access the resource because there's authentication and sorry, there's authorization going on at like with every endpoint and every layer. We wouldn't
Um,
yeah.
okay, so I don't want you to go into like the rabbit hole of authentication. I mean, that's not like the main my main issue. My main issue was just making sure you are running the code in an isolated environment. So
Yeah,
you
so
mentioned using
I think I got the vocabulary like sandboxes. Yeah, sandboxes.
okay, so to be clear, the sandbox is it just a VM that is running Linux and then it has the tools for running the code, or it's is it just like a VM?
Yeah,
Just to be
it
clear.
could be a VM, but it could be like multiple instances of a VM also. I just like narrowed it down for the life cycle of or the end-to-end flow of like just one code submitted. So how it's going to be is you use the code editor API. It takes the code. First of all, it checks the syntax. We wouldn't be running it for every time the user presses submit or every time the user presses code. Because when you write the code, sometimes you need to check something like syntax error, and also we have like semantic errors. The code editor already has some form of compilers or some form of interpreters in the API that are already doing that. What we are doing is if the code editor says this code is correct, but I think you need to run it against your test case. That's where we bring it into our sandbox. And the sandbox kind of like runs like code concurrently, right? So we could also have we could say we could also have some form of queue. Yeah, I think we could also have some form of queue with that needs login over there because one person's code needs to finish before another. So yeah, I think I could make this.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah,
uh
the
I
next
want
question.
you to give me like
Yeah.
just add in where you would be running the code. I just want to see it like in the diagram so that I can move on to my next question.
Mm, does it have to be in the service? Okay, I think we can attribute it.
It's
I
it's
think
it's all on you.
I was asking myself that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can have a small like sandbox. Um, yeah, runs multiples, which are submissions. Yeah, yeah. So runs multiple submissions concurrently. What's your next question?
Okay. Um Next question. Yeah, it would mostly be around like the databases. So
Sure.
you to be clear, there so for each service we have a new database server for it, right?
Yeah,
And we are storing, could you scroll to the right a bit? Scroll to the right a bit. Sorry,
oh
today. I don't know, like
yeah. The thing
yeah,
responds late.
so
It
we
responds
are
late. So
storing
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the questions, we are storing some IDs, some number of times it was attempted, wrong selves, correct self. So you were mentioning something around storing the submission as a document or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? And also, you earlier before getting there, you mentioned you are using SQL databases,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So could you explain the how you are going to be storing the submissions as documents and why you chose to create a new database server for each service?
Yeah, I think it's all about improvements and advancements that's been done on SQL databases. I think maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if this interview was being had, I wouldn't be. I would probably store the documents in some other file buckets or something. But the documents is just like at the end of the day text, and it's just like checking syntax with like so much white spaces in them. So SQL databases have been advanced enough that they can handle documents as a column. I think yeah, I think I can make mention of them. So most databases like SQL database, they have this kind of column type called a JSON blob. So JSON blob basically stores documents, and it can preserve your JSON structure for you. And even if I want to store a string, I could store the string as a blob. I don't think um coding questions require that many characters, even if like each character is taking about 4 bytes. At the end of the day, it's not even going to be a megabyte, right? So I could store like millions and millions of code solutions in my SQL database as a blob, and it wouldn't have any problem. I chose to store it with JSON blob because I think they've been made efficient with SQL databases, and I think I'll go with them. Changing my whole idea based on, because and the reason why I'm going with a SQL database is that although I've isolated this, we just know that maybe the user DB is going to have some form of relationship with the questions DB, right? So in other, like, we need that kind of structure, we need that kind of like order, so that maybe when you query a user, you can see the number of questions they solve. I have an endpoint for like question number slash solution slash me. That one is kind of like just for the user. So if you go into the you click the user, all right, searches the user database, but it also like makes a reference to the questions database. And for me to store everything in the documents, it means I'm going to get rid of this kind of relationship, like one to one or many to many, like kind of mapping. So I feel like the trade-offs for the document databases outweighs the trade-offs for the non-document database, which is the SQL database. And also, in addition to that, documents are being stored more efficiently in modern SQL databases as well.
Mhm. Okay. Um, just to dig a bit deeper into how you plan of like running the test cases, could you explain that? So there's a question, right? And let's say maybe two sum,
Yeah.
and the user submits their solution. How are you going to run that in like different? I mean, you don't. I don't want like the obviously you wouldn't be telling me the lines of code, but I just want to get like a general idea of how you'd run different test cases for, or like the same test cases for different languages.
Yeah, so I would explain for just maybe like one code submission, and we'll just assume that like that's what happens concurrently for multiple submissions. So when I think for coding platforms, they also write some kind of code on their part. You could see that even in lead code, some things you don't even have to use the import keyword, but they are already there. So you could have that in your editor, and also a test case is just a text file, right? You have the text file, like the way we've been doing advent of code. You create your own text file and you have to pass it. So the coding platform has just like done that for you, and they are trying to tell you that focus on the code. think some platforms like HackerRank, sometimes you have to pass your own test cases and also write your own like solution. And even in AOC, that's like how common the questions present themselves. So for each question, for each like I wouldn't say so for each question, you have the code that's passing the test cases, which is a text file. And if it's like a list, they are already like making the list. If it's a linked list, they're already creating a class to make those linked lists. And they they also have like, so if let's see the the question takes a function with three parameters, and they already have it, and they're already like passing in like three arguments, which is your list. Sorry, they would be passing in like four arguments, which is your function, the parameters, and the expected solution. So it's quite straightforward, just like how you write unit cases, sorry, unit test cases for your code blocks. It's the same thing. You have the when, then the given clause. Sorry, the given when. Sorry, I don't know. Like you give the code and you call the function and you give the expected results. That's what I'm trying to explain. So this is what happens concurrently. Yeah, you write like we on the platform write some of the code.
Okay. Uh, hmm. All right. Hmm. My, I have so many questions around the sandbox, but
Uh,
it's
what questions do you have around the sandbox?
it's just so the explanation you gave, right,
Yeah.
is you are, because that is really not isolation. If for every single process, if for every single submission, we are just running everything on the same VM like that,
Yeah, so
or I didn't get
initially
your
I stated
explanation.
that we could have multiple instances of a VM, but how efficient is it that we are running one solution on one VM? Like, if we are having like this, like maybe during competitions, we are having like 500,000 concurrent users. Does that mean we need 500,000 sandboxes or VMs? It means like we have to write and we have to test the code that's been submitted. Like we have to abstract some, like we have to narrow down the isolation into the sandbox. We don't have to do the isolation outside of the sandbox where you see like this code we assign it to this VM, or we queue all of them and the sandbox will be running them one after the other. Then it means it's defeating the purpose of like 500,000 concurrent users. Then maybe we could just, if we are going with 500,000, just 500,000 users, then we could queue them and like maybe we could set something like, oh, if this code comes in, our sandbox is going to power on. It will run the code, then it would power off. Then I've worked on certain projects that work like that, where the sandbox does the whole life cycle. It would turn off and turn on and run the code and die and do that thing. So if we are not focusing on concurrency, then I think we can do that. We can even like
Uh,
spin up like Docker um how do they call it? Yeah, we can even spin up like Docker containers in the same like VMs to run them. So if we are going with Docker, I think maybe you would understand that one pretty much, because like Docker is kind of like you have your own like OS, but it's a software. So yeah, that one we can do it like that. Maybe we can like be doing 5, 10 Docker instances at the same time, and maybe multiple instances of a VM as well. So maybe if we have like two VMs with like 5 instances of Docker each, that's going to be like 10 at a time.
yes. So um, kind of what I had wanted to hear was, I don't know if I can give my feedback out now, but adding using containers would be a kind of a way better approach, because if we are just using VMs, right? One, if like for any case, for every single submission we are bringing up a VM. Don't forget our um one of our what's the name, uh our non-functional requirements is that we want low latency, right? So the 5 to 10 seconds that would be the even the time that the or the VM would be coming up. And even using a queue wouldn't also help because it means there will be more delays. So at
Yeah,
least for
yeah. I didn't say I was going with queues. I was saying that queues would
yes,
make sense if it's not concurrent. I ended up with the container solution. So yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to say okay, I would accept your container solution.
Okay.
Um yeah. Uh accurate timekeeper. What's the
Yeah, I think we're right on time. 2 minutes, if 2 minutes left.
So
oh,
maybe I think I have more time. If any of like the viewers have any question, like Gwali, Hack, Ernest, if you have any questions, maybe we could take them on.
What was the scaling strategy for storing, accessing the questions? Yeah, storing the questions SQL database. If we have, I think you mentioned a number at the beginning, concurrence 5,000 or something. If you're having a lot of reads come in, what's the strategy
Oh, okay, so
to?
like we are dealing with like properly, let's say like 5 million daily active users and stuff.
Yeah, this will be a read heavy
Yeah, so if it's going to be read heavy, I think we could
platform.
we
Yeah.
could still replicate with the code with the DB like the slave master kind of thingy. But if
Did you
yeah
already mention that?
yeah
If I already
already
missed, I'm
already
sorry.
mentioned that already mentioned that.
Oh, they're going to
Yeah,
have
that,
like
that
multiple
that's why like that's
replicas.
why like they have kind of like two ovals at the back. It's kind of representing the replication.
Two overalls.
I don't know if it's Eclipse or ovals, but like I mean, the services it means like multiple instance of a service, and this one means replicated databases. So yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I was asking if, like you said, the overalls. So I can see comms going to comms DB, right?
Yeah.
So I'm asking, like the replication, is it? Are you doing replication? Are you doing multiple services or multiple DB? Like, are you doing read replicas on the DB or are doing multiple instances of the service, like as a
Yeah, so
skill
that's what I'm
strategy?
saying. Like multiple instances of the service, but that's what's displaying like with the double edges you are seeing. But for the double circumferences or double edges of the circles, it means like multiple like it's being replicated. Like so multiple read replications, but the services is multiple instances.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. I didn't know that's what the this one meant. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. Um, yeah, I think maybe we might be done. So maybe if there are no questions, I can just stop sharing my screen.
Interviewer, any last
um
words?
uh I think my last words would be he be senior man, so he try wow. That be all.
He cooking.
Um yeah, but just one thing, I feel like in the beginning when you started like drawing, you just went straight like you just went straight into like your optimizations without even looking at the whether you covered all your function requirements.
Oh yeah, then I think yeah, it's good you caught that. Yeah, I think I realized that. I didn't set in kind of like milestone whilst I was trying to explain my solution. Maybe I should have said
Yeah,
that, oh okay, maybe we should start with the high level design. And maybe if
yeah,
I'm done then I would ask if I can move on. Yeah, I think yeah.
and also you made some assumptions that I don't at the end they made sense, but they were not assumptions as an interview I had, or they were not like facts I had in my mind. But you made them and you convinced everybody that was the ideal case. Which I don't know if it's a skill or it's I don't know, but
Um,
you did well, like convincing every. Okay, you convinced me that that was like the case.
yeah, I think maybe you could have drawn me back. That's all, and maybe I would choose the proper path. I think that's the
But
role
yeah,
of the interviewer.
okay, understood. He the interview. I guess. But yeah, yeah, I think it was a nice session.
Thank you.
Are there any
Me, my own is that he
comments?
was saying like son, like.
I'm not frequent. I'm not fluent. Sorry.
Hey, for book, nothing. Yeah, but I think it was like I didn't for a second like maybe not know what was going on. Maybe because I was from here from the beginning, but I think it was a good one.
Um,
Thank you.
then we can move on to
Yeah, I think
the
Yeah,
it's
next
if I
order
think you
of the
can
day.
stop recording here.
okay. Sure.
Yeah.